It's time to answer your questions on the Friday show. We answer viewer questions. Anything, for the most part, goes. You can submit your questions via voicemail at 219-2-DAVID-P. Email them to us. Tweet them to us. What else? Facebook? YouTube? YouTube's a little inconvenient, though. We get thousands of comments a day. Sometimes the questions get lost. But certainly voicemail and email are good ones. First question is from Ricky. How do you know whether to break up a physical fight that you see developing in front of you? Lewis, you may be able to speak to this better than I can. Many of us, if you ever go to bars, sporting events, crowded places, if you went to college or university, I mean, many of us have been in situations where physical fights start to develop and escalate. Sometimes they start to escalate and they end up not happening at all. But sometimes they do devolve into big-time physical fights. Do you, Lewis, as someone who has also experienced from both a bartender and a doorman perspective at bars, physical altercations, what should the average person do to decide whether to get involved and try to stop a fight?
For me, I guess everyone's metric is different, but for me, if one of the people, if one person who's involved in the fight clearly does not want to have anything to do with it, then I think you should break it up. If one of the people involved is at such a physical disadvantage for any number of reasons, if I'm in a bar, if they're completely wasted and they, aren't even really aware of what's happening or can't really defend themselves in any way, I think that is potentially a good reason to break up a fight. And,
now let me ask you this. Those are factors that have no bearing on the connection of any of the individuals related to you. If two of your friends are about to get into a fight, regardless of the circumstances, is that a fight you're more likely to try to break up than if it's two people you don't know, for example? What if you know one of the two people who may be in the fight?
I think that if it were two of my friends, I would break it up because I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to deal with it. Presumably, I'm with them, and it just makes things worse if that happens. And of course, I don't want to see my friends get hurt. So yes, I would break that up. If it were one of my friends and a stranger, and I would probably try to stop it. But if they were adamant, I don't know, maybe depending on the situation, I'd say go for it.
In that circumstance, if your friend starts to be showing to be on the losing end of the fight, is that a situation in which you would jump in and maybe try to help?
Then I would, if I'm going to jump in, presumably it will be to break it up. You don't mean join in?
No,
right?
I mean join in. Yeah.
Oh, join in. Well, if that could, every situation's different. I could see myself joining in if I see something I don't like. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for my standard is I am generally going to try to avoid any kind of physical altercation. If it's people I don't know and there's no particular reason to think that it's an incredibly unfair fight or whatever, I would probably stay out of it. When I see fights at bars, I just try to stay as far away from it as possible. When I visited Lewis in Austin, we were on 6th Street there, and a big fight developed right in front of me where a 45-year-old man punched a 20-something-year-old girl right in the face, and her face started bleeding. And it was like everybody was just stunned at what took place. And two of the guys that were with that young lady jumped in right away and started punching this guy. And it all happened so quickly, Lewis, that it was like before I even had an understanding of what happened. Because sometimes when these things happen, you almost think there must be some joke. Like some of this must be people playing around because the behavior is so absurd. And by the time we realized this was a real fight, it had essentially ended.
Yeah, on streets like 6th Street, that's how it happens. It's usually pretty quick. But sometimes big crowds develop around these things. It was too early in the night for that to happen at the time we were there. But people will bust out the cell phones. And usually they end up not even happening, though.